The Titans were a supernatural being that existed millions of years ago, before there were any humans or gods in the universe. They were the most powerful and divine beings, but Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, their own sons, put an end to their rule. Zeus, the eldest brother, was the most intelligent one. He persuaded Hades, his brother, to use his abilities to create a beast that was so powerful and horrible that it could kill their parents. The unfathomable monstrosity of the Kraken was created from Hades' flesh, ending the Titans, and giving the brothers tremendous power. Zeus became the god of the heavens, Poseidon became the deity of the sea, and Hades was deceived by Zeus into being the carrier of the trauma and sadness of the underworld. At the distribution of their parents' powers, then Zeus made humanity, whose prayers gave the other gods eternal life. Hades, however, also made use of people's dread to increase his authority. War and misery increased throughout time in the world that Zeus once believed to be ideal. People began to wonder about their father's conduct, and their faith in the gods began to wane, raising the scary possibility of a conflict between gods and humans. Mortals would undoubtedly perish. The picture switches to a struggling fisherman navigating a hazardous sea storm. He notices a box that resembles a coffin floating toward him in the depths of the ocean. He manages to fish it into his boat, where he finds a horrific sight: a mother's body holding her newborn child, who is thankfully still alive. The fisherman promises to care for and nourish the infant as he takes him into his arms. A mystery woman is watching them intently from somewhere nearby. The fisherman's wife becomes pregnant when the child reaches adolescence. The youngster worries that his father will abandon him, but after holding his own blood in his arms, he realizes that their relationship transcends any biological ties. The young boy grows up to be the valiant fisherman Perseus. He lives with his 4 devoted siblings and has a little sister that he adores more than anything. Human rebellion against the gods has grown by this point. The lives of the immortals are in grave danger, since a number of countries have destroyed holy statues, sent troops to Mount Olympus, and stopped worshipping completely. Perseus and his family are sailing a great distance to fish one afternoon. His father accuses the gods of punishing them by causing them to suffer from hunger and starvation when their nets come up empty. Perseus remains uninvolved in the discussion, simply thinking about his family, who are going hungry. They abruptly witness a large Zeus monument being attacked by soldiers from the nation of Argus, whose monarch had ordered them to destroy the statue. Something starts to move in the water after the enormous work of concrete art has fallen. Humanoids that resemble bats soar through the air and murder the troops one by one. Perseus and his family stand by in fear, unable to act to attract the notice of the beasts. When the murdering stops, the creatures combine to become Hades, the god of the underworld, who is out to exact revenge on those who disobeyed his brother Zeus. Hades fixes his gaze on the boat, before gently launching it into the water, taking Perseus's family with it. Despite his best efforts, Perseus is the only one who has survived. Perseus is brought to the palace by an Argus rescue squad. Despite being the lone survivor, the monarch declares victory and tells his men to rejoice. When the queen insults Zeus, Hades shows up to punish her. Before vanishing, Hades turns to face Perseus and addresses him as the son of Zeus. Perseus is imprisoned, subjected to torture, and given the mission of finding a method to save the city. The generous princess offers to sacrifice herself and tries to halt the warriors, but the king forbids it. A woman is given permission to see Perseus in prison in the following scene. She is the same enigmatic woman who prevented Perseus from attacking Hades earlier, and who was present when the fisherman discovered Perseus. She identifies herself as Io, a mortal who once turned down a god's overtures, and was thereby afflicted with immortality. Io argues that she had to witness all of her loved ones pass away and live on without them, which hardly seems like a misfortune. She knows everything about Perseus, his mother, and the tale of how they ended up in the water many years ago, because she has been living for almost 1,000 years. The nation's rebel monarch escorted a sizable army toward Mount Olympus, infuriating the gods. Zeus considered making an example of the king, since he didn't want to harm mankind, because he loved them as his own. Zeus went to the queen and made love to her while posing as the king. The king's deadliest enemy had pregnant his wife when he had just returned from combat. She gave birth to Perseus in the water after being thrown into a coffin by him while he was furious. Now that Perseus has explanations for how his life came to be, his only objective is to exact revenge on Hades by killing him. He is informed by Io that if he kills the Kraken, Hades will be at his most vulnerable, giving him the finest opportunity to end his life. Perseus thus embarks on the expedition with the Argosian warriors to track down and slay the Kraken. The fourth day of their travel rapidly passes, and the chief in command asks Perseus if he is skilled with a sword. He receives a brief demonstration before being unexpectedly attacked. Perseus first stumbles, but quickly recovers and shocks everyone by demonstrating his inborn skill with a sword. He is informed that he does, in fact, possess godly body. Then the king, who is now residing in a dark cave as a peasant, is revealed to us as Perseus's stepfather. As he approaches the man, Hades says that he is acting on behalf of Zeus in order to win his trust and catch him off guard. The former monarch is willing to do anything to please Hades, since he too wants Zeus to perish. In order to slay Perseus, the god of the underworld transforms him into a demon. While the soldiers rest for the day somewhere else, Perseus explores the forest and comes across a sword and a herd of flying horses that his father Zeus had sent to ensure that he had a good chance of winning. Perseus, however, declines both the weapon and the scent for pure black horse. He finds the demons Hades sent to slaughter everyone as he hears a soldier scream for rescue. He jumps at Perseus and delivers a lethal blow, but the hero reacts quickly to defend himself. The soldiers team up with him to defeat the demon, severing his left hand and exhorting him to run. They had to separate into two groups to look for him as they follow him rapidly. The demon vanishes, but the troops are suddenly ambushed by a huge scorpion that lives beneath the sand. A ferocious battle breaks out, taking many troops' lives one by one. Io intervenes just in time to stop Perseus from being stung at one point. They are besieged by numerous, even larger scorpions, right when they believe they have won the battle, and the scorpion dies. The warriors are startled as the enormous creatures suddenly halt as they prepare to engage in battle once more. One of them gestures toward a djinn that is visible among the adjacent figures. They are the beings that were once people, but have been transformed into beings that resemble us via the use of charcoal and black magic. Despite his mistrust of them, the commander decides to accept assistance for the evening. Perseus stumbles to the ground as a result of his venom-infected, hurt arm from Hades. The Jinn commander heals the arm at night in his tent with black magic. The Jinn reveals that his kind has been waiting for eons to see the gods fall, and Perseus is their best hope. The soldiers mistake him, which leads to a little altercation. They go over the desert on the scorpions in the morning and arrive to the Garden of Stygia in the evening. Perseus learns that the Titans were vanquished here by the Kraken. To find the Stygian witches who know how to kill the Kraken, they travel further into the uninhabited area. Io cautions Perseus to exercise caution, and to just ask the witches the questions he needs answered. They enter a cave and find 3 horrifying witches there, one of whom is carrying an eyeball that allows them all to see. They attack the soldiers because of the smell of fresh human blood, but Perseus grabs their eyeball and uses it as leverage to rescue his friends. The witches ultimately admit that diving deep is the only way to destroy the Kraken. Long ago, the sea god Poseidon took advantage of a beautiful Medusa because he liked her. She appealed to the goddess Athena for assistance, but the goddess turned away from her. As a result, Medusa was cursed such that no living thing would ever see her. The Kraken, among others, will turn to stone if they catch a glimpse of her visage. Soon after, the gang departs into the underworld in search of the cell where Medusa is being held. Perseus runs into his father Zeus while they are traveling, who invites him to spend a blissful life in paradise. Although Perseus declines the proposition, Zeus does give him a gold coin as a parting gift. The group is in front of the sea that will take them to the underworld in the scenario that follows. Using Perseus's currency as payment, the Jinn convinces the ferryman to transport them directly to Medusa's lair. Only men are permitted inside the prison, so Io must remain outside. However, she cautions them that no man has ever escaped. The moment the party steps inside the prison, they hear a woman chuckle. Everyone should keep their guard up and their eyes down, Perseus commands. The commander is struck in the chest by arrows that suddenly start flying their way, and before they realize it, demons are attacking them. The precise moment allows Perseus to save Jin and himself after nearly falling into a fire pit. Two of the teenage soldiers are troubled by Medusa. As they search for the other members of the gang, they both unintentionally cast a peek at her face, which results in their deaths. She then manages to capture Jin and attempts to turn him into stone, but due to his usage of black magic, he manages to assault her one final time before passing away. The commander uses this chance to stab her tail before becoming stone as well. Perseus finally uses her vulnerability to his advantage by cutting off her head with his sword. Io, who had been worried, is overjoyed to see Perseus emerge with the bag containing Medusa's head. But her joy is short-lived as Perseus's stepfather stabs her to death shortly after. Io hands Perseus the sword that Zeus had given him before she passes away. After using it to expel the demon, he also accepts the flying horse. Hades visits Zeus in Olympus at the same time to request permission to release the Kraken, in the hopes that his offspring will once more beg him for their forgiveness. Zeus gives Hades complete freedom. The populace of Argus has organized a cult to sacrifice the princess in order for the Kraken to take her rather than them. The enormous beast is let loose, and the city of Argus starts to tremble. Zeus hastily begs his brother to put an end to the mayhem, because he hoped the prayers would be of assistance. But his kids are terrified instead. Hades mocks his brother, calling him a fool, and saying that the dread of the populace is what drives him. The princess is then sacrificed by being hung by a bridge, but unlike what the people expected, the beast doesn't simply take her. The human-like bats are allowed to kill anybody they want. When Perseus shows up and scales the bridge with Medusa's head, the Kraken has just emerged from the water and is about to attack the princess. Medusa and the princess tumble into the sea as the enormous beast turns to stone. Before Perseus can react, Hades materializes in front of him in his most vulnerable state. When Perseus strikes his uncle with his magical sword, the deity is sent back to the underworld and imprisoned there forever. Finally, Perseus succeeds in rescuing the princess and bringing her to land. She expresses gratitude to him and pledges to lead the country with skill as queen. Zeus visits his son in the final scene, and gives him the option of staying a human for the rest of his life. He gives his son a unique present by reviving Io. As the film comes to a close, subscribe for more content like this. Don't forget to turn on notifications and leave a like to support the channel. Thank you for watching.